Barbecue Central Show, let's go. The #1 barbecue show on the low. Your host Greg Rampy, the grilling master, spreading the info, getting to you faster, asking tough questions and having a blast. The Barbecue Central Show is here at last. The best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Come on, let's go.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less. I'm your host, Jon Solberg. Today's episode from July 14th, 2015. Loyal Centralite Diane Me of Lake House Barbecue was in, giving us insight on the Pacific Northwest Barbecue Association. We're going to hear from Diane in just a minute, but first, let's hear from Frank Denton. Frank is the pitmaster of Hug Hogs BBQ. Frank was a master judge before he entered the world of competition barbecue as a cook.
Best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Come on, let's go.
Frank Denton joining me here on the show, pitmaster of Hug Hogs BBQ. Frank, you'd mentioned that you were a judge 3+ years before you decided to get into the cooking aspect of it. I guess rarely do I have a pitmaster on my show who has been a judge first, let alone for that extended period of time before they decided to get around the other side of the fence and be a cook. So how do you feel being, A, judge, certified barbecue judge, but B, being a master judge has helped you in honing the flavor profiles and the taste, the texture, the tenderness, all that stuff? How has it made you a better cook?
Well, just associating yourselves with the judges themselves. You're sitting there at a table with 5 other judges. Once the entry's been scored, all the scorecards are turned in. Judges will chit-chat a little bit, and I really think that's helped my wife and I, be good cooks or better cooks.
Do you think that you had a leg up on some competition people having been a judge first before doing the cooking?
I won't say that it hurt us any. I definitely think it helped us. Presentations, you see, as a judge, you see a lot of presentations during one contest, let alone, 25 or 30. You see what judges, like appearance-wise, not necessarily like everybody talks about the greens. It's not really as much, the garnish as it is, the meat itself and how the cook presents it.
We all know that if you're going to go win a KCBS contest, you're not going to garnish a box, so why not just make it mandatory?
I agree. KCBS, there's several different ways that some of us have talked, at competitions, be it, the green mats that, they put in the bottom of, meat wrappings. They could put that in there, but no, I don't think I would ever turn in a naked box. The greens do help contrast the meat, and it does give a bed for the meat to sit on and keep it from sliding around in the box when you're taking it to turn-in tent.
When you were judging, if somebody would have turned in a box with no garnish, would you have been like, whoa? Or would you have not even considered the fact that it's not garnished?
No, we have seen boxes that are naked, no garnish. And, it's all about the meat, and I do try to focus strictly on the meat. But as a cook, I do know that, it's appealing to the eye, having a green frame. It's kind of like having a Rembrandt with a 2x4 frame around it. So, you do put a pretty frame around a nice picture, and it really accentuates the picture itself. But as a judge, I don't pick apart the garnish.
Frank Denton joining me here on the show. Frank, when it comes to the meats, it seems over the last handful of years, it's becoming more and more specialized. Are you a team that, is searching out the specialty pork ribs and the specialty pork shoulders and the specialty briskets and chickens, or are you pretty much still a big box store buyer, more or less?
The briskets, we do go with the Wagyu briskets. But yeah, as far as chicken ribs and pork, I buy those all from local, markets and big box stores.
Frank, do you think that judges have become unknowingly conditioned to expect a Wagyu turn-in at this point? I mean, I have no idea what the percentage of Wagyu briskets being turned in at any competition are, but from the people that I talk to, more and more folks are going to something like that, which means that that's what the judges are tasting more and more of. And if those are the ones that are winning, there almost has to be some kind of an assimilation there, don't you think?
Somewhat. I personally like the Wagyu briskets. They're more consistent to cook over the choice, the choice briskets from big box stores. They meet my marks on the timeline a lot closer than the others. I'm not sure judges expect the Wagyu briskets or the high dollar meats. I do know side by side that the Wagyus do have a richer flavor.
Do you have to cook it much more differently than you would a one that you get at a Sam's Club or a butcher?
I don't really cook it any different. It just it hits its marks a lot more regularly. And I've cooked choice side by side with the Wagyus. Put them both on the cutting board for the wife to. She's the one that samples the meat that goes in the box. She's the one that makes the call, what pieces go in, and she's always picked the Wagyu over the choice every time.
Are you an injector of the pork butts and the briskets?
Yes.
Do you use the commercial stuff, or do you have something that's kind of team made?
No, I use the commercial. Everything I use is commercial. Rubs, sauces. Some of them are blended a little bit, but yeah, the injections are pretty much straightforward.
Are they butcher barbecue injections?
They sure are.
Oh yeah! Shout out, Dave. Another happy customer. Do you find that flavor profiles are starting to become a little bit more differentiated from team to team, or do you still think that there's kind of a vanilla flavor profile that teams are trying to hit and give themselves the best chance to win?
I think there's just a good barbecue profile that a lot of the teams have been taught from some leading competitors that put on classes, and those profiles seem to work real well for a lot of people.
As a guy that started out as a judge, is that something that you like? Do you like to taste, 50 or 60 different entries that are relatively the same, or would you like to see a palate roller coaster, if you will?
Sometimes the roller coaster becomes a problem because your taste buds just become overloaded, and good barbecue, good sauce, it's hard to get tired of it. But there are some great flavor profiles out there, and it's all about the good cue.
Do you cook the same barbecue in your backyard that you turn into those judges?
No.
No?
No, I cook very bland barbecue at home compared to what we feed to the judges on Saturday. What we give them really has to pop, and what we cook at home is just cool barbecue. We like just the basic salt, pepper, garlic, and onion. That's hard to beat at home.
best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less. Come on, let's go.
Pitmaster of Lake House Barbecue, Diane, meet the show. Diane, how are you?
Great. How are you, Greg?
I'm absolutely fabulous, Diane. Appreciate you making time for the show tonight. And as I had mentioned in the open there just a couple seconds ago, Lake House having quite the couple weeks, right?
Yes, that's true. Well, our major competitors have been out of action for a month, so a lot of us
wait a
lower
second.
down the list.
We never, no. We never talk about anybody that might be better. Forget about that. They are causing their own demise, and Lake House is ready to step up and kick those people in the teeth and take what is rightfully theirs. That's what we're talking about, right?
That's true.
Yeah. All right. So recap the last couple weeks. I know last week was Puyallup. I was just going to say it. And then you also had a grand championship the week before that. So go back 2 weeks and tell us about the first grand championship.
Well, the first one was in Dallas, Oregon, and went round and round with my family from Dallas who thought I was driving to Dallas. And then I thought I was going to the Dalles, Oregon. And I finally got it down to Dallas, Oregon.
Wow.
And it was a very hot contest. It was probably about 112 degrees
It gets
down there.
It gets that hot out there?
Yeah.
Really?
This is down in, let's look, it's just, Dallas is probably like 20 minutes from Salem, Oregon. So not quite out on the coast to get that marine influence. So inland it was very hot. And even in Seattle, it's been like in the 90s for the last 2 weeks, and we've all been dying. So...
Well, let me ask you something. When you are cooking in that kind of a situation, I mean, 85 degrees, 90 degrees, certainly hot. But, I mean, we're talking about another 20, 22 degrees on top of that. So do you... Sometimes I ask the guys that get out and the gals that get out to, like, Colorado or at altitude when it gets cold, how does the temperature affect your cook? So in this instance, it's like almost the reverse. You're not cooking at like 30 below. You're cooking at like hell's front door. And what I noticed, like when I had an offset barbecue pit, I had an old close pit. When it got really freaking hot here in Cleveland, if I took the cover off of it, that thing was standing already like at 100 degrees without any fire in it. So when you have a cooker and you have this kind of a heat, are you battling any type of what I would call ghost heat that you need to account for?
Not a whole lot, really, actually. Although, yeah, the WSMs probably register at least like 120 just standing there. So, no, not really. If there also was no wind, so for me, the wind is always a major player in a cook. So, since we had still winds and there's not a breath of wind, so from that aspect, it makes managing the temps a lot easier.
I would imagine the huge benefit from that is your fuel consumption is probably like a clean diesel car getting 85 miles to the gallon, right?
That's true. I did put it a little less charcoal than normal.
All right, so you win grand championship there. I suppose I didn't ask maybe the most important question, which is this is Pacific Northwest. So is this under their own like rules and guidance there, or is this a KCBS or some other sanctioned contest?
No, actually, the PNWBA is an association and a sanctioning body, and we're a little different than KCBS in that we score on a 10-point system, and we switch the big meats and the small meats, so our big meats are turned in first. So we start with pork, then go to brisket, and then chicken and ribs are last. So when we switch into KCBS, you kind of have to inverse your cook schedule a little bit, but so that's how we differ. What
kind of a following does the Pacific Northwest Barbecue Association have up there?
Well, quite a few teams. Actually, the PNWBA is almost as old, if not older, than the KCBS is, I think. So there's a lot of really long-time barbecuers up here that, have been going at it for a long time. The PNWBA was really born out of a lot of chili cooks. So there's a lot of chili cooks up in Canada and down down in Washington that used to get together and cook chili, and then at some point they decided to throw a brisket on the barbecue, and then it sort of evolved from that, so there's a lot of really old-time barbecuers around here.
Diane Mee from Lake House Barbecue joining me here on the show, talking about the win a couple weeks ago. We'll get to the one this past weekend here in a second. Was everything working for you category-wise? Did you have to, kind of battle some things? How did that cook go for you?
Actually, I had a pretty solid cook except for ribs, which kind of was a disaster. But I got into a time, because I cook by myself, so I'm kind of sometimes hit time crunches. So I was trying to do my pork bucks, but my ribs were getting a little on getting done. So I foiled them just a little bit too early, and they just didn't have enough bark on them. So I just made a bad call in that regard. But the rest of my meats came out pretty nice.
When you get the call for Grand Championship, is it something that well, obviously I would imagine never gets old, but is it affirmation of a cook well done?
Yeah, it is, especially this year, because I keep being the bridesmaid and never the bride. I was kidding, third place seemed to be my place this year up until, and then I had a couple of not too great cooks, and then I had a week off and just kind of regrouped and came back and hit the first at this contest. So,
in regards to meat, Diane, and I asked Frank Denton this in the first hour, you see a trend more and more to the specialty stuff, the higher end Wagyus, the Compart or the Duroc porks, both ribs and shoulders. Chicken, I guess, is still a little bit more big box stuff. You get what you can get. But do you, as a team, buy stuff that is more on the edge of cost, or are you still more of a big box shopper at this point?
Well, we come from the land of Costco, so Costco is probably a major supplier to most of the teams out here. So we still get our ribs from Costco, and chicken, chicken has been sort of my vexing category this year. It's been up and down and up and down. And so I switched off the high-end chicken I was using and went to just a lower-end chicken. And, pork, I still use commodity pork because it's tough for us to get Duroc shipped all the way up to Seattle, so that makes it tough. So most teams up here still use commodity-based pork. The briskets, a lot of teams use Wagyu, so that's kind of our meat profile up here.
In the judging portion of this, Diane, do you guys get any kind of feedback cards or counsel from the judges on what they like and what they didn't like, or what they're looking for, and as far as what they think is good or not?
Yeah, that's another thing that's different from KCBS in that the PNWBA gives out comment cards on every judge writes a comment card on every category, so you can know why they gave you the scores that they did, and so it helps you make corrections a lot quicker. So you're not sitting there wondering why they gave you a 6 or why they gave you a 5 or what they didn't like about your taste or whatever. They'll tell you what they didn't like. They'll also tell you what they liked too. So hopefully that's more the norm than the other way around.
And there you have it from July 14th of 2015. You want to hear the rest of these interviews? Head on over to thebbqcentralshow.com. Use the search box. Search Diane Mee. Search Frank Denton. Search anything you might want to look for. There was probably an episode about it. While you're there, make sure you hit the subscribe tab at the top of the page. Never miss another episode of the Barbecue Central Show via podcast or this show again. Until next time on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, I'm your host, Jon Solberg. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.
Best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Come on, let's go.